And at this point, that time is really running low if you are planning to evacuate. There have been a lot of developments since we first brought you this story at 5 o'clock, but right off the bat, I want to show you the scene, what we're seeing right now. Jeannie, this high-stakes takedown happened right here during rush hour on 103rd Street. But you can still see police guarding the home where this deadly stabbing happened. I want to step off and give you a better look now that we've been able to move a little bit closer. And here's why the state's doing this. Would-be voters who went to register to vote Florida.gov last night should have been greeted by this screen. And for these people who have been waiting since mid-March and still have not seen any. Are there any gripes that you have with the way in which CARES Act money has been distributed? If this bill became law, your art history student would only receive Bright Futures funding for half of their needed credits, while the finance student would receive full funding.
I could only work 4-hour shifts because it was so hard. It was so sad, and I couldn't do anything to really help them.
This is the voice of Karina. We've changed her name to protect her privacy. She lives out of state, one of a number of temp agents across the country hired to man Florida's unemployment phone lines. She tells us she was untrained and unprepared.
We were just someone to answer the phone for them and to tell people to wait. I felt like a puppet.
Our investigation found a myriad of issues that help explain continued problems with the state's unemployment helpline. Call takers unequipped and even directed not to answer claim-specific questions, even as the claim-specific phone line overflowed to them.
It was just a lot of listening and just trying to be there for them in this whole system, because a lot of them, they were just happy to have a person on the line.
A former employee we'll call Alice said not being able to answer people's questions took a toll on her mental health.
Knowing that you're working and you're making a paycheck, working for an agency that is so beyond broken, while these people are out there struggling to put in a claim for the money that they basically have paid into the system. It takes a toll on you.
Misery is all people, despondent and desperate and hurting.
The call takers we interviewed expressed the same concerns. Little to no training on the unemployment system Connect. A flood of desperate callers, some threatening suicide, with slow response from supervisors. Supervisors who seem to know as little as the call takers themselves. And frequent glitches with the system, leading wages to be zeroed out or employer information to be absent from the state's wage verification system. Any of these could be holding back your application. And another glitch, if someone has a visual impairment or maybe doesn't have ready access to the internet, a call taker is supposed to be able to do an application over the phone with them. But the call takers we talked to said that they would see a grayed out submit button that kept them from doing so. Karina remembers one elderly woman who called for help.
She said, tomorrow's May 1st. My landlord told me if I don't pay that I have to get out. She's like, what am I going to do? And she hadn't even been able to submit her application yet, and I wasn't able to submit it.
The call takers also told us they were given scripted answers. When callers asked how long their claim would take, they say they were told to respond, "We are processing applications as quickly as possible. We appreciate your patience."
We weren't in a position to actually do anything worth.
For weeks now, Governor Ron DeSantis has touted call center numbers, saying people could get information they needed to get paid. But the hundreds of emails we've received tell a different story. In a statement, the state says they are continuing to train more workers daily on how to handle specific claims.
She has damaged our lives forever, and the lives of so many people that knew these boys and loved them. And she's taken so much from us.
When we spoke with Troy and Rochelle Rowley in December, a stocking with their son Parker's name still hung in the family home for the holidays.
Our world has stopped, but we're forced to keep going.
The Rowleys are living every day in any parent's worst nightmare, the loss of a child.
There's this bucket of pain that we carry around, and it just fills and fills.
Their neighbors, Steve and Kathleen Kennedy, familiar with the same hurt.
It's very difficult to have that empty chair at the table.
See, 17-year-old Parker Rowley and 16-year-old Luke Kennedy were best friends, inseparable.
They were like the perfect halves of each other.
Yeah.
Separate, they were amazing too, but together they were just unstoppable.
Since meeting as boys, Parker and Luke were bound at the hip. They loved to be outside, to play airsoft, and when they could drive, going out to get food. It It was a Friday night in October. They were heading home on State Road 16. Rochelle was on the phone with Parker, checking in, when the call went quiet.
There was a clicking on the line, and I thought maybe he had dropped the phone or fumbled the phone. I never heard any indication at all that they knew they were about to be hit.
A 42-year-old woman who's not been publicly named by the Florida Highway Patrol ran the stop sign at the intersection of South Francis Road and 16. Parker died on impact. Luke was taken to the hospital.
I called her from Baptist and I said, meet me at...
You told me to come get you.
Yeah, come get me because I was at Baptist.
After being taken to Wolfson's, Luke would also die.
She took something from us. She took something from both of our families.
Yeah.
The first report released by FHP put the boys at fault, saying they were driving east, the pickup west, when they veered into the woman's lane. But the agency later corrected the report to show what actually happened, noting the woman was turning left and failed to yield. The families say investigators told them she lied about what happened while she was on scene.
It's bad enough to take our boys from us, but to try to pin it on them and make it their fault so she can walk off scot-free. It's disgusting, really.
What's more, according to the crash report, the driver refused a blood alcohol test on scene.
If they had no indication of impairment, that would limit any ability to seek evidence based on that ground.
Jacksonville DUI attorney Susan Cohen says Florida law requires 2 factors to force a drug or alcohol test, even in a fatal crash: for the driver to be at fault and signs of impairment, things like slurred speech or alcohol on the breath.
Even if it was determined that she was at fault in the crash, they would still have to have that reason or that probable cause to believe that she was impaired at the time that that happened in order to compel the blood.
The families would like to see the law changed for fatal crashes like these. More than that, though, they want justice, to know what really happened that night, and for others to treat driving seriously.
In an instant, you can cause irreparable harm to 2 families and an entire community over your selfishness. You know, think about that. Think about others.
David Jones, First Coast News, on your side.